My name is Evelyn Pembroke. I'm 32, and I'm standing in the kitchen of my new home, running my hand along a cool granite countertop like it might disappear if I stopped touching it. This house is proof that 7 years of double shifts, packed lunches, and refusing just this once splurge finally added up to something real. I was thrown out of my family home at 18, and now I own 4 bedrooms and a garden. Then my sister Priscilla walks in, eyes doing that slow calculating sweep she's perfected since childhood. "This place is perfect for my kids," she announces. Our mother, Margaret, appears right behind her, nodding like they'd rehearsed it in the car. If you've ever had family try to claim what you built with your own 2 hands, you already know where this is going. Growing up in our house outside Birmingham, the rules were never the same for both daughters. Priscilla got new trainers every term. I got her old ones a size too big, stuffed with tissue paper so they'd fit. "She needs more looking after," Mum used to say. "You're the strong one, Evelyn. You'll manage." Funny how strong always seemed to mean, gets nothing and doesn't complain about it. When Priscilla failed her maths mocks, they hired her a tutor and cut her chores in half. When I came home with a full row of A stars, Dad barely looked up from the football. "That's just Evelyn being Evelyn," he'd say, like excellence were a personality quirk rather than something I'd bled for. The real breaking point came the summer after my A-levels. Priscilla, 23 by then, had married her boyfriend Desmond after a surprise pregnancy and moved back home with their baby daughter. I came back from my Saturday job at the corner shop to find my bedroom stripped and repainted into a nursery, without so much as a text. "You start university in September," Mum told me over breakfast, buttering toast like she was discussing the weather. "We need your room for Priscilla's family. You'll want to sort out somewhere to live." Somewhere to live. I was 18, had exactly £1,400 saved, and apparently that qualified as a housing plan. "What about the fund you and Dad started for me?" I asked, remembering the little building society booklet they'd shown me once, years back, like a promise. Mum wouldn't meet my eyes. "That went toward Priscilla's wedding. She needed it more." That night I packed my life into my battered Ford Fiesta, a graduation gift from my gran, bless her, and drove to my best friend Josephine's house. Her parents let me sleep in their spare room until term started. No questions, no conditions, which taught me more about family than my actual family ever had. University became a blur of exhaustion. Mornings at a cafe, afternoons shelving library books, weekends waiting tables, and tutoring GCSE students whenever I had an hour spare. I averaged 5 hours of sleep a night for 4 years and somehow still graduated with a first. Meanwhile, Priscilla had twins, and my parents converted the garage into a nursery extension. At family gatherings, everyone asked about her sleepless nights. Nobody asked about mine. After graduation, I landed a junior role at a financial services firm in the city. Not glamorous, but it paid and it grew. I lived in a studio flat furnished almost entirely from charity shops and skip fines, a habit that horrified my colleagues and delighted my bank balance. While they spent their weekends at brunch, I built a spreadsheet tracking every pound and stuck to it like scripture. Within 3 years I was a senior analyst. Within 7, I was earning 6 figures and had a deposit big enough to make a mortgage advisor whistle. I found the house through a government scheme for key professionals. Favorable rates, reduced deposit, months of paperwork that made me want to throw my laptop into the Thames. Then, finally, a 4-bedroom Victorian terrace in a quiet, tree-lined street with excellent schools nearby. £480,000. Every penny I had, and worth it the second I walked through the front door. Throughout all of this, my family stayed at arm's length, except when Priscilla needed an emergency loan that always seemed to coincide with a sale at her favorite shops. Still, some stubborn, hopeful part of me invited them all to my housewarming. Maybe, I told myself, seeing the house would finally make them see me. I should have known better. Hope, it turns out, is remarkably slow to learn its lesson. The morning of the party was bright and clear, the kind of spring morning that feels like it's rooting for you. I arranged flowers, laid out cheese and charcuterie, tested the sound system twice. Every room held a small dream, the study with built-in shelves for the consultancy I planned to launch, the guest room so friends would never sleep on a sofa again, the garden, still mostly soil and ambition, that would one day grow my own vegetables. Josephine arrived early to help, spinning slowly in my living room. "Evelyn, this is stunning. I always knew you'd do it." "I still don't quite believe it's mine," I admitted, running my hand along the banister. By noon, the house was full of warmth. Co-workers, neighbors, university friends who'd watched me survive on instant noodles and stubbornness. Then, a full hour before the party officially started, the doorbell rang like it had somewhere urgent to be. Priscilla stood on the doorstep with Desmond and their 3 children, none of them carrying so much as a bottle of wine. "Surprise! We came early to help set up," she announced, sweeping past me before I'd said a word. The children scattered instantly. Somewhere upstairs something crashed. "Wow," Priscilla said, eyeing the chandelier in my hallway. "Quite a place for someone living alone." It landed less like a compliment and more like a verdict. I had no idea yet just how far she intended to take it. For the next hour, Priscilla's family toured my house like estate agents pricing it for auction. The children left sticky fingerprints on the fresh paint. Desmond tracked mud across the rug and, at one memorable point, produced an actual tape measure from his jacket pocket to check whether his living room curtains would fit with a small adjustment, as though the sale had already gone through and nobody had told me. At 2:30, my mother arrived. "What a lovely little place," she said, air-kissing near my cheek. £480,000 and 4 bedrooms was hardly little, but I bit my tongue and pointed her toward the kitchen. Within a minute she'd abandoned me entirely to fuss over the grandchildren. Her and Priscilla's heads bent together like 2 spies comparing notes. Eventually I noticed they'd vanished upstairs. Mum, Priscilla, Desmond, all 3 kids. My friend Josephine offered to check on them. I said I'd go myself. On the landing, I heard my mother's voice drifting from the master bedroom. "This closet is bigger than the children's whole room in your flat, Priscilla. 2 sinks, a separate shower and bath. It's just so unfair," Priscilla whined, in the exact tone that used to precede her getting whatever she wanted. "We're crammed into 2 bedrooms while Evelyn has all this space she doesn't even need." "Family should help family," Mum said, conspiratorial. "Evelyn's always been selfish. Remember how she never wanted to share her toys?" I was 5. I'd wanted to keep 1 doll. When I froze on the landing as they laid out their plan in full. The children would each get a room. Desmond would take the front room as an office, and I, the actual owner, the one whose name was on the mortgage, could get a flat nearby if she's that attached to the neighborhood. I retreated downstairs, forced a smile back onto my face, and had no idea the worst was still coming. Minutes later, Priscilla descended the stairs and tapped a fork against her wine glass like she was about to give a wedding toast. "Everyone, can I have your attention? We have some exciting news." The room quieted. My stomach dropped straight through the floorboards. "Our flat has become far too small for our growing family," Priscilla announced, beaming, one hand on her eldest shoulder. "So we are absolutely thrilled to say, we'll be moving into this beautiful house very soon." Silence. Then chaos. My cheese knife hovered mid-air, forgotten. "Priscilla," I managed. "What on earth are you talking about?" "It just makes sense," she said, with the exaggerated patience of someone explaining colors to a toddler. 4 bedrooms, 1 person. Obvious, really. "The solution to your housing situation is not my house," I said, my voice climbing. "Family helps family," Mum cut in. "Your sister needs this more than you do." "That is not how mortgages work," I said, and I swear a guest near the door actually laughed out loud before catching himself. What followed was one of the strangest hours of my life. Desmond suggested converting my basement into a man cave for his recliner. Priscilla's daughter Poppy had already claimed the room with the window seat. Her younger brothers, Oliver and Freddie, were mid-negotiation over who got the top bunk in a bunk bed that did not exist, in a room they did not own. When I finally said, calmly and clearly, "None of you are moving in, this is my house," Priscilla's face shifted from entitlement to fury. "You always were selfish. How is keeping the house I saved 7 years for selfish? Because family comes first, Mum said, as though reciting scripture. Then perhaps, I said, you should have helped Priscilla save for her own house, instead of expecting me to hand her mine. Something in me, some old, tired, endlessly accommodating part of me, finally snapped clean in half. I thought of the bicycle I got for my 16th birthday while Priscilla got a car. The valedictorian speech neither parent attended because someone had to mind the kids. The Christmas of practical socks while Priscilla unwrapped a designer coat. Get out, I said quietly. Priscilla had to lean in to hear it. Excuse me. Get out of my house. All of you. Now. You cannot kick out your own family, Mum sputtered. Family doesn't try to steal from each other, I said. And I'm finally saying no. Desmond tried reasoning with me. Priscilla, cornered, went for the low blow. This is exactly why you're alone. Too selfish to keep a relationship. No wonder you don't have a family of your own. Old me would have crumbled. New me felt strangely, blessedly calm. I'd rather be alone, I said, than surrounded by people who only see me as something to take from. A crash. One of my nephews had knocked over a vase. Broke the standoff. Fine, Priscilla spat, dragging her son by the arm. We'll go. But this isn't over. Yes, I said, closing the door behind them. It has been over for years. I just didn't realize it until tonight. I turned back to a living room full of stunned, sympathetic faces and thought, well, at least the cheese board survived. By morning I had 29 missed calls. The last text, sent at 3 a.m. from Priscilla, read, "You'll regret this. Family is forever, and you just threw yours away over a house." I made coffee, sat in my garden, and watched the sunrise over soil that, whatever else happened, belonged entirely to me. Then I made 3 calls. My solicitor, a home security company, and Josephine. By that afternoon I had new smart locks, a doorbell camera, and a folder of documents ready to prove exactly what I'd known all along. This house was mine, legally and completely. When Mum and Priscilla showed up the next day, I didn't let them pass the doorstep. Come back in an hour, I said. I've invited some friends to witness the conversation, so there's no confusion afterward. They huddled by their car, clearly rattled, and returned exactly 60 minutes later to find Josephine, 2 more friends, and my boss Bernard seated in my living room like a small, well-dressed tribunal. I laid it all out. Photos of my old bedsit with its hot plate and mattress on the floor, 7 years of bank statements showing relentless saving, and finally, the paperwork. The deed, the mortgage, a solicitor's letter dated the day I completed on the house anticipating exactly this kind of pressure, and a cease and desist letter ready for delivery the next morning. You'd sue your own family. Mum gasped. If I have to, I said. This house represents every night I worked while you all slept comfortably in the home you took from me. You have 2 choices. Accept it's mine or damage this relationship permanently by continuing to try and take it. Mum left without a real answer. Priscilla lingered, staring at the house with open longing before following. Dad, who'd said almost nothing the entire time, stayed behind. I should have stepped in years ago, he admitted quietly. I'm proud of you, Evelyn. I should say that more. It was decades late, but I took it. What followed was a masterclass in family drama I could genuinely have sold tickets to. A group email titled Evelyn's Betrayal went out to every aunt, uncle and second cousin, conveniently omitting the part where my sister tried to annex my house like a small, badly organized country. My Aunt Winifred, the family's unofficial matriarch, wrote back privately, "I've watched this dynamic your whole life. Good for you. They won't change unless forced to." Her support meant more than she probably knew. Mum told mutual friends I'd had some kind of breakdown. My friend Felicity rang to warn me, then added, laughing, "I told her you seemed the happiest I've seen you in years," which frankly is true. Priscilla took to social media with vaguely pointed posts about toxic family members, until I quietly adjusted my privacy settings and moved on with my life. The strangest attempt came from Desmond, who cornered me in the supermarket with a compromise. He and Priscilla would buy into the house as co-owners, and I could live in the converted basement. I declined. He called me an ice queen on his way out. I bought a very nice bottle of Prosecco to celebrate the insult. The lowest point was when Priscilla sent her children to my door, primed to ask about their new bedrooms. I gave them biscuits, told them gently that their mother was mistaken, and drove them home myself. A small act of decency that apparently embarrassed Priscilla more than any argument could have. That night, alone, I finally let myself grieve. Not the house, but the childhood where I was never quite enough. Then I let myself feel something new. Freedom. I changed my number, tightened my privacy settings, and started therapy with a wonderfully blunt counselor named Dr. Whitfield, who taught me the difference between guilt and genuine responsibility. A lesson I wish someone had handed me at 18 instead of a bin bag and a deadline. 9 months later, Priscilla asked to meet, alone. Over coffee, she admitted something I never expected. A genuine shopping addiction, years of untreated postpartum depression, and a habit of spending money the family didn't have to fill a hole nothing material could actually fix. "I'm not asking for anything," she said. "I just want you to know I see it now." It didn't erase anything. But it cracked a door I'd assumed was welded shut. We rebuilt something smaller and steadier. Dinners, park visits with the kids, honesty instead of obligation. My relationship with Mum stayed distant. Some doors, I learned, are healthier left mostly closed. My relationship with Dad became something new entirely, built slowly over regular coffees and long overdue apologies. A year after buying the house, I hosted a dinner. Not a housewarming this time, but something closer to a homecoming. Dad raised his glass. "To Evelyn and her beautiful home. To standing your ground," Josephine added. "To new beginnings," Priscilla said quietly, and meant it. I raised my own glass last. "To building a life that belongs to you," I said. "And to keeping around the people who celebrate that instead of trying to take it." The house that had briefly become a battleground was, finally, just mine. A sanctuary earned one long shift, one packed lunch, and one very firm no at a time. If you've ever had to stand your ground against people who should have been in your corner, how did you handle it?